I'll be reading BestBall, a story from my spiritual internet series, or one of my channeled anime afterlife experiences on a conceptual level. The All-Steroid League was ready to integrate mortals, geneticists, sports scientists, and peak performance gurus came to this unlikely consensus. Overemphasis on speed, power, home runs, strikeouts, and other superhuman feats had taken away the nuances of the game, and baseball became a prolonged home run derby and pedantic exhibition of speed, skill, and general athleticism. This, including their zillion-dollar movies, concerts, and other spectacles, had a disorienting effect on fans also, giving them short attention spans and dulling their more discerning senses, gouging their third, fourth, fifth, and millionth eyes, so to speak. So they were blind to the subtle nuances of true athletic mastery, like in the old days. There was evidence that this glitzy mega tech super society was regressing. The very superstructures which dwarfed them also atrophied their brains, while inflating their egos and other appendages, enhancing their predatory instincts via dehumanization. The carnivores were making a comeback, reptilian brain memory. No coincidence that some microbes and bacteria overran worlds unseen, evolving into insectoid ETs even more advanced than these gods along immeasurable timelines. So actually, this is a baseball league in a parallel reality of godly humans. But anyways, some astronomers deciphered this via the hieroglyphic-like indentations in interstellar galaxies that had just collapsed. We needed to develop certain senses pertaining to emotional intelligence, cultivating potential receptors for infodiversity. Receptors that couldn't be identified by neuroscientists. These receptors are essential for encouraging diversity in biology, ecology, etc. Infodiversity. Diversity of diversities. Recipe for multiverse to be, etc., via the intimate magnetism of the perceptual mind. So the astronomers could either be from Earth or they're astronomers. We don't know. Talent scouts for the Titans of Team Ninida heard of these findings. They insisted on breaking the superpower stranglehold paradigm and be the first team to recruit an earthly player. They had their eyes on fielder Ken Perez. He was perhaps the last athlete, mortal and superhuman, to have aspects of all traits. He was quick enough, strong enough. More importantly, his many complementary perspectives enabled him to coordinate even mysterious dynamics. So again, we're not sure where reality and fantasy, Earth and parallel Earths converge. This is unorthodoxy in its highest form. The Titans had the highest batting average of any team, breaking records in home runs, RBIs, and strikeouts, but they could never win a World Series. Hence, even such a star-studded team can finish last, like they did 3 years in a row. Best of the worst, or worst of the best? Who knows? They embodied an overpowering knockout puncher who'd get outclassed in the last games of the playoffs. They never even won a pennant. Their team captain was all-star catcher Nancy Rodriguez. How curious that the player with the lowest batting average be the captain, barely hitting .200. but she was the only one who could catch the comet-like blurs hurled by their super pitchers. She's their foundation, guiding pitchers of all skills to pitch perfect to near perfect games. So the catcher embodies the maternal position in terms of the crouch and all that and receiving. So she's a goddess. This southpaw threw Nancy Rodriguez. This southpaw threw harder than any pitcher too, at short range, gunning down the most base thieves. They called her the grenade sniper. Very few passed balls. She passed very few passed balls. She's also known as the headstone, as in tombstone, because she couldn't be knocked off home plate, and many players lost consciousness upon collision. Many suffered concussions too, because of her great stance, her knees anchoring. She was like an anchor. An anchor taken down could sink a ship while holding her zone. More importantly, she was a peacekeeper, always breaking up fights. Her past jiu-jitsu prowess enabled her to take down angry batters running up the mound without hurting them and shielding them from her super testosterone teammates. As the towering line of players waited to greet Perez for practice, she was the only one with a curious, warm smile. What can he do? He'll just slow us down, they lamented. But she insisted he was cat-like and wily, considering that she had played against him in a spring training exhibition game. He might have stolen a base on her, considering how questionable that out call was, since they were playing on her home field. They also played for Team Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic. Don't underestimate his prowess and flexibility. He's like a cat jumping out of water. Try to keep a cat into water, it'll tear you to pieces. He jogged onto the field, a little leaguer before giants. But in boxing, pound for pound, middleweights and welterweights tend to be the best fighters because they've had no choice but to unify all aspects: speed, strategy, and power, and leverage. But the manager explained everything in the locker room that morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we're making history because we have a human playing with us. I trust that you understand he can't do all of our workouts and drills. He'll be on bench most of the time, but he's no ordinary utility player. He's meant to zero in on specific batters that seemingly have your number, field in areas you can no longer gauge, and to steal bases. We've modified our regimen accordingly. Since he was ambidextrous, he could hit lefties and righties the same, and even power pitchers, considering his unique sense of offsetting his tremendous knowledge of physics, cosmic physics. He could offset any power. He could literally, hit a comet with just like a Q-tip. He was a natural, like a bunt, like he could bunt it, whatever. He was a natural righty, but his left arm was noticeably bigger and more muscular and stronger. His esoteric mathematician's sense of depth enabled him to use the minutest alignments to offset any leverage. A 200-an-hour strike could be deflected like a high-powered hose being shielded by a mattress. Incalculable dynamics were encoded in his swings and athleticism. He stole bases and fielded so expansively because he was guided by micro computations that even immortals overlook. He studied the numerical masses between ones and twos, and the memories became compatible, both his and the environment's, as if the portals and sportals between big bangs and a black hose from beyond and without lubricated his every thought pour, momentum guiding him through the unseen. Um, he started off well, but was soon swept up in the ocean, which he thought was just another body of water. He hit the lefties, calculated the pop-up flies, and converted the undulating comets into singles. But their taunts got to him. They couldn't believe a mortal, an overbeing in training, was keeping up, so they mocked his form. He became the very fool they said he was, as if caricaturing their mocking, not validating it, internalizing it, playing it dumb, being condescending being condescending towards their condescension towards him. So he'd have the last laugh. They'd watch him perform his unorthodox routines, executing explosive sprints which simultaneously incorporated movements of boxing, martial arts, football, track and field, soccer, football, and other dynamics not confined to athletics. Why couldn't he make up his mind either do jumping jacks or side kicks, walking lunges or tackles? His undecipherable ethic was interfering with their hit-and-run tactics, fielding. His fluctuating stance, like a fencer or samurai, was disrupting the super-efficient trajectories of their curveballs during practice. But was he really throwing them off or exposing them, revealing baseball secrets? Could some compromise be formed so that his blinding perspective could help others see? Nancy sat cross-length in true Tom girl fashion, sporting her catcher's helmet and vest. What portal did he slip through? I've never seen any being like him, mortal, immortal, or otherwise, she muttered to herself. She uncrossed her lengths, quads and thighs bulging, and her white egg-like ball dropped out of her mitt, off her lap, crotch, rolling towards him. Nancy was considered, and he picked it up. They made eye contact, she smiled, and he threw it back and all that. Nancy was considered to be one of the sports world's most outrageous characters because of her mocking humor. Nothing was beyond her in this sense. She could solve any mystery and challenge any gatekeeper, from team managers to gods and anything else with a mere joke or with lovingly scathing social satire. But this rookie baffled her. It was truly the end of eternity, since understanding him required reconciling all base dilemmas. This supposed missing link was creating gaps in their lineup, so they wanted to boycott him. Why should they have to adjust their game to this one guy, insignificant mortal? But Nancy intervened. I know he's a little wild, but he has potential. Let me work with him. In typical Captain Nance nuance fashion, she preempted many challenges and other programs in time for the game by focusing on one problem at a time. She spared him the hazing of the gods, her all-star teammates, super celebrities, by calling him the mama's boy. How can you top that loving put-down? Better than, Punk or something like that, or semi-ape, semi-human, what the gods say about the mortals. She pulled him aside like a maternal older sister, saying, "We gotta calm you down. You are all over the place with your swings, throws, and everything. But that's how I move. That's what got me here. I know. I'm not discouraging your talent, but we all need to align some. Then you can expand out once we get used to each other." Makes sense. Let's practice some throws. Then you can help me with my batting by fielding my hits. He threw straighter than he could see and discern with her, via her guidance, unlike others he practiced with. She held the mitt like a bullseye, which expanded and shrunk, guiding him, almost pulling him in. It's like he no longer felt like he was throwing at something. Like he grew like limbs the length of the field, able to adjust his stroll accordingly. His erratic sprints forced her to extend out her hits past points where they usually popped up or went foul. But he caught her most of the time, still. So his unorthodox moves forced her to like bat out of the her strike zone where she strikes out. It's curious how she hit 350 at batting practice against her fellow pitchers, among the league's best, but couldn't hit rival pitchers during games. Her average increased to 215, but management was considering making some bold trades. They were determined to go all the way this year, and a 300 catcher was the missing link, provided that Nancy delivered. If Nancy didn't improve her batting, despite her defensive prowess and leadership skills, she'd be expendable. She was a semi-illegal anyways, considering that she didn't take steroids. She was naturally powerful and athletic. She was an evolving angel goddess, having one all-natural mutant or genetic freak was one of the unspoken rules of the game, but there was hardly anyone who could be proven to be evolved beings other than her. It was nearly impossible for a geneticist to verify who was clean or born from a pure bloodline, since the prevalent steroid use during previous generation had enhanced some genealogies, including other evolutionary tamperings, whether eugenics, uh, inversions of epigenetics, genetic manipulation by aliens, natural and unnatural, and sometimes these evolutionary processes corresponded with each other, allowing them to become descendants of aliens, gods, and the rest by default. But this allowed for a loophole. A semi-legal could still take steroids. Maybe this could improve her hitting, despite her great form, considering that she was struggling. Her thudding cut, slashing thud, and batting speed. Oh, maybe this could improve her hitting despite her great form, her thudding cut, slashing thud, and batting speed, which comprised it. She took the steroids and started hitting home runs right off the bat, increasing her average to 275. But she committed more errors, passed balls, and threw out less base thieves. The team became more of an offensive juggernaut, which it didn't need to, while compromising its already weak defense. Good thing Perez came through. His incalculable fielding and the robbing of many hitters of his incalculable fielding, robbing many hitters of doubles and triples, while his erratic form and tactical running or sprinting enabled him to steal bases. He scored so many singles that he might as well have been a one single at a time slugger, hitting 350. One single at a time slugger hitting 350. So Ichiro is like zero, like 1 and 0 each. But Nancy was obstinate. I taught him too well, she reasoned. Whenever pitchers complained why she strained to catch their fastballs and screwballs, she'd blame the gloves. Don't make them like they used to. Fortunately, the team was headed for the playoffs, which gave Nancy a chance to taper off the juice and regain her true strength. They probably would be number one now had she did it straight. Who but her would have thought Perez would have come through? Did she really believe in him? She loved mentoring him, though. She was his only buddy on the team, despite being outgoing and get along with everybody. She really had no friends. She was like that ideal female companion he never had, or anyone else fortunate enough, you know, to be in love or whatever. She was beyond categories, an all-wise sister who playfully teased and mentored, a buddy who can tell you anything, who you can tell anything to because he or she is so easygoing and easy to talk to, and a mother figure who accepted you no matter what. She was so much better than a girlfriend that he didn't even bother asking her out. He would ruin it. She'd always greeted him by saying, "My main man." Anyhow, she always compliment. Oh, she always greeted him by saying, "My main man." Anyhow, so who cares? She always complimented him about his overlooked good looks and spirit, beyond anyone's evaluation, good or bad. She was affectionate and playful, hugging, kissing, and slapping him on the butt. Better that a girl does it than another guy, like they do in baseball. This was beyond love or sex because her warmth was so healing. She lived many lives with him and played many roles too. She felt like she was both her student and mentor. No, she felt like he was both her student and mentor. Uh, Son and sibling son who could nurture and support him beyond the roles of father, brother, teacher. In this realm of spirituality where, again, I've gotten into other videos, all roles become interchangeable. So because there's no need for reproduction or families or anything like that. So I'm expressing spiritual concepts through gross 3D concepts. So this is pure energy exchange in the form of baseball. She enjoyed practicing with him because she lived a childhood she never had, considering that she was a prodigy, always under pressure to excel. Baseball can be fun. Baseball can be fun, not demanding. She became more of a leader by freeing herself from the pressures of being just another team player, which she had initially imposed on Ken. He was quiet, and she forced him to interact more with other players, but he could never be one of them, and she nearly lost her special bond by distancing herself, and as a result, he'd play worse. It felt that no one was on his side for a while. Eventually, she just accepted their connection. This liberated her to the point that she saw more in herself and others, ironically. That's when they had their 30-game winning streak, starting August 7, ensuring their place in the playoffs. Their bond and her role as team captain was also why she wanted to remain on the team. She revealed what a wild girl she was to Ken during their heart-to-heart conversations, how being a captain gave her purpose and focus, but she didn't elaborate too much about the many battles she fought and provoked in other realities, the world she wiped out. She's still paying her karmic debts, and this is one of them, as well as being a cabbie, which I wrote about in Motorcycles. You could check that out. They swept the first round and won Game 7 of the Game 7, another August 7, Game 7. I was born in 74, so they say 7's a high number like 9. So, of the pennant, and won Game 7 of the pennant against their dreaded rivals, the Omegans, after Nancy tripled Ken home with an extra innings clutch hit. Then came the World Series against an all-star team with players from all eras. There were two ways to face this ultimate challenge. Either try to outplay them or play the game at the purest level. But how would the latter strategy play out? Fans gathered in the stadium for Game 7 of the World Series between the Red Sox and Cardinals on Earth. But people stared up at the particular alignment of stars in the night sky, not at the scoreless game, which was dragging on into extra innings in front of them. They were entranced by the shooting stars, comets, and UFOs on this unusually clear night, as if gravity itself was evolving or becoming freer. To the illusion that time was slowing down, but there was no time. Some had hallucinated or dreamt that they saw perfect bat swings and pitches within the whooshing comets and silent starbursts, the stars seemingly forming into new constellations of giant baseball players and home plates, or warriors, or anything, any undercurrent of all dynamic, expressive action. So, baseball player, warrior evolving into their ultimate forms. The perfect game was being played in the heavens, and baseball reached its apex as every player executed their moves in unison, pure exhibition of skill, teamwork, and mechanics. So it didn't matter if Team Nineveh won because they solved the riddle. The unified field and blueprint for peace and democracy had been realized conceptually.